Why do teams with world-class athletes still collapse in the biggest moments? You've seen it happen. A team stacked with talent, perfect on paper, dominating all season. And then, when it matters the most, in the finals, in the playoffs, in the moment where everything is on the line, they fall apart. Not because they forgot how to play, and not because the other team was better. They just broke. And if you ask coaches, analysts, and fans, they'll point to tactics, conditioning, maybe even mental toughness. But new research shows that most people completely miss something critical. Hi, I'm Tommy. I'm a mental performance and team performance coach, and I'm the creator of the Flow Mindset Method. I work with athletes and teams to help them stay present, get into flow, perform better. Today, I want to explore why elite teams collapse. Because it's not about skill and it's not about strategy. It's not even about individual mental strength. It's about something that most teams never address. Here's what fascinates me about team performance, because we spend so much time obsessing over individual talent, like who's the best striker, the fastest runner, the most clutch performer. And then we watch teams full of these elite individuals completely crumble under pressure. You see it in football, hockey, basketball. Teams that should win don't. And teams that have every advantage on paper get outplayed by opponents who have no business beating them. Here's the weird part. When you talk to the athletes afterwards, they'll say things like, "We just couldn't find our rhythm, something felt off, we weren't connected." But what does that actually mean? I work with athletes across many different sports, and one thing I hear constantly is this tension between what they want to do on a team and what they feel safe doing. And that gap, that invisible barrier between capability and expression, that's where teams collapse. Research on elite football teams across European top leagues have shown something very interesting. And they weren't measuring tactics or fitness. They were measuring something called psychological safety. Psychological safety is the extent to which players feel comfortable taking risks, voicing doubts, making mistakes, and speaking up without the fear of being punished or ridiculed or even dismissed. And what the research found was striking. Teams with higher psychological safety didn't just perform better under normal conditions, they were significantly more resilient under pressure. They were the teams that held together when things got chaotic. And teams with low psychological safety, they were the ones that collapsed. Now here's where it gets interesting from a mental performance perspective, because psychological safety isn't just a feel-good team culture thing. It has direct neurological and performance implications. When an athlete doesn't feel psychologically safe, their brain is constantly running a background threat assessment. So like, if I try this risky pass and it fails, will my teammates blame me? Or if I speak up about a tactical issue, will the coach shut me down? If I make a mistake, will I lose my position? That's cognitive load. That's mental energy being diverted away from performance and towards self-protection. And in high-pressure moments when the game is on the line, that cognitive load becomes crushing. Because now you're not just playing the game, you're managing your position within your team, your reputation, your safety. So you hesitate, you play it safe, you defer to others even when you see a better option. You don't communicate what you're seeing because you're not sure if it will be received well. And that hesitation, that's how teams that should win end up losing. I've worked with athletes who describe this exact pattern. They'll say, in training, I can play freely, but in games, especially big games, I'm constantly second-guessing myself. Not because I doubt my skill, but because I'm worried about how the team will react if I mess up. And that's not a lack of confidence, that's a lack of psychological safety. And here's what makes this so tricky, because you can have a team full of individually mentally strong athletes who've done their work on their mindset, who knows how to handle pressure, but if the team environment doesn't feel safe, all that individual mental training gets undermined. Because humans are social creatures. Our nervous systems are wired to detect social threat just as intensely as physical threat. And when your brain perceives that your position in the group is at risk, doesn't matter how mentally tough you are as an individual, your system goes into protection mode. And here's what I think is really happening when teams collapse. It's not that they suddenly lose their skills. It's not that they haven't trained hard enough. It's that under pressure, when things start going wrong, the lack of psychological safety creates a cascade of individual breakdowns that compound into a team collapse. Think about it. One player makes a mistake, and in a psychologically safe team, someone might call out encouragement or quickly adjust tactics or openly communicate about what went wrong so everyone can learn and adapt. But in a team without psychological safety, that mistake triggers fear. The player who made the mistake is now worried about blame. Their teammates are frustrated but don't feel safe expressing it constructively. The coach is angry, but the players don't feel safe asking for clarity. So instead of adapting, the team starts fragmenting into pieces. And everyone retreats into self-protection. Communication breaks down. The collective intelligence of the team, the ability to read each other and respond fluidly, that all disappears. And that's when you see the collapse. A single mistake snowballs because no one feels safe addressing it openly. The team that win under pressure aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the ones where players feel safe enough to communicate honestly, to take risks, to make mistakes, to recover quickly, to challenge each other constructively. That's the hidden variable that most analysts miss. So here's my question for you. When you watch teams collapse, whether it's your own team or someone else's team, what if it's not about mental toughness? What if it's about whether players feel safe enough to perform at their best when it matters most? And if you've ever been on a team at any level, think about this. Did you feel safe taking risks? Did you feel safe making mistakes? Did you feel safe speaking up when you saw something that could be improved? Because that feeling or lack of it, that's what determines whether a team rises or falls under pressure. And this matters because we spend so much time focusing on individual performance, on individual mental training, on individual skill and development. And yeah, all of this is important. But if we ignore the team environment, if we ignore whether athletes feel psychologically safe, we're missing a massive piece of why performance breaks down. You can't perform at your best when part of your brain is scanning for social threat. Building psychological safety on a team isn't simple. It requires leadership, it requires culture, it requires everyone buying in and taking accountability, but recognizing that it exists and recognizing that it's a factor in why teams collapse, that's the first step. And if this resonates with you, if you've been on a team that felt psychologically safe or one that didn't, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What was different about how those teams performed under pressure? Why elite teams collapse is a mystery most people get wrong. But once you understand psychological safety, you'll start seeing it everywhere. Thanks for watching. And if this was valuable and you want more content on mental and team performance, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.